Hey folks, welcome to today's The Steady Trader YouTube Live. We're going to get right to the point this morning and talk about a stock that I like. Before I show you the stock and before we talk about it, I'm going to show you three charts in a second. Let me just say, as always, this is not a recommendation. I'm not your financial advisor. This is simply an opinion and I'm offering this to you through the lens of education. The stock we're going to talk about here is shares of Twitter. And we're going to look at three charts in a second, like I said, but let me first go through a couple of points. Twitter has been an underperformer in many ways through the lens of other social media stocks. Over the past few years, it's been a real struggle. The company's had a lot of internal struggles, almost like political infighting, if you will, within its management. Jack Dorsey has been tremendously successful, I think, thus far in the turnaround story. He's also the CEO of a company called Square, which, by the way, again, not a recommendation, but I actually also like that stock. It's been one of our theme stocks for Clubhouse members and for coaching clients so far all of 2018 and also late last year, 2017. So we continue to like both of the stocks, but again, today we're going to talk about Twitter. Twitter has been striking deals with Bloomberg, making its own news channel there. They've had great Olympic coverage. They've got the World Cup and so on and so on and so forth. And I think finally, more importantly almost for the stock price, that the belief system in institutional investors in the stock is finally coming back. So without any further ado, let's have a look at the three charts that I think anyone should be aware of when it comes to Twitter. All right. So there's basically three important charts that I always look at. Number one is a longer term chart, a weekly chart, which is this one. Then there's a relative chart, and then this daily chart. Let's start off quickly first with our long-term picture of Twitter. When I say long-term, this is basically since the IPO, initial public offering of Twitter back in 2013. And you can see essentially the stock after an initial pop essentially then dropped all the way into early 2016. And then had a big sort of consolidation phase or bottoming phase, which is all of this here. So I kind of put my finger underneath that. You can see that all of it is the consolidation phase. And then finally, what happened here in December of last year is this point right here. You can see how the stock started breaking, and this is just the price action so far. You can see how the stock started breaking right here in December of last year. It started breaking past diagonal resistance, right? That's the purple line. Plus, it started breaking above or out of this consolidation phase, which really went from early 2016 all the way into late 2017. It all happened in December. And since then, the stock has been on fire this year. It's up very strongly. It's now coming into this technical resistance area, which used to be an area also of support. Okay, so that's the weekly chart. Now, let me show you guys the relative chart. This is also really interesting, and I'm kind of making an arbitrary comparison here, but it is fairly on point. So what I did here is I took Twitter and I divided it by the NASDAQ 100, and not because the NASDAQ 100 is the only thing to compare Twitter to, but to kind of just show you some relative comparisons. So the NASDAQ 100 or NASDAQ stocks have done very well so far in 2018, although I think that's going to start to slow down. I think, so far that's undisputable. And within this part of the market, you can see that shares of Twitter have actually very nicely outperformed the NASDAQ 100. So that relative strength is coming through there. And finally, thirdly, if I show you the daily chart here of Twitter, you can see that this is a stock that after breaking higher, gapping higher in February after earnings, started to consolidate here. You can see this very nice consolidation phase. Then finally yesterday, which was March the 5th on Monday, it gave us a nice roughly 5% move, broke out of this sort of wedge pattern, remains marginally within the blue zone here, but more or less it does look very promising, and I think $40 could be the next upside price target. Now, let me say something very, very, very important about this Twitter stock. Let me quickly flip around the camera and make this very, very important point. When it comes to Twitter, so Twitter is a very, very jumpy stock. It's prone to a lot of different news flow. It can very swiftly drop, 5, 10, 15%. So it's not the kind of stock, in my opinion, that really should be traded very actively. we've made the case in, I want to say November last year, maybe it was December, for Clubhouse members and coaching clients and all the stuff that we do, that we think Twitter is kind of like more of a hold. I don't want to say it's a long-term hold because we don't know just yet, but it's definitely more of a hold than an active trade. Because Twitter can be very twitchy, if you will. It really can move very quickly. So in my opinion, yes, you can try to do swing trades, but for the most part right now, there's a fundamental story, a turnaround story, a belief system that's coming back. The charts, as you guys saw, hopefully these 3 charts are convincing. At least those are the ones that my work suggests are convincing. Do look promising for the stock to move towards 40 bucks. Again, you have to give it a longer leash. It's not the kind of stock I think you need to trade very actively. Give it a leash. And lastly, I'll say this. I think the stock still remains a takeover target. Now, there's been rumors out there for Twitter to be a takeover target for a couple of years now. I think the stock is getting closer to the point where people are looking at it more seriously again, potential buyers, because the company has managed to get its act together. So I hope that makes sense, folks. Please give us a thumbs up, like, if you enjoy this. Subscribe to the channel, and please share our daily The Steady Trader YouTube Live little stories here to anyone that you know. And hope this is helpful, and see you guys in the next YouTube Live.